Giri Govardhan Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're on Canto 10, Chapter 87, the prayers of the personified Vedas, and text number 20 today. And there's um, along with a decently sized purport. So the translation is: the individual living entity, while inhabiting the material bodies he has created for himself by his karma, actually remains uncovered by either gross or subtle matter. This is so because, as the Vedas describe, he is part and parcel of you, the possessor of all potencies. Having determined this to be the status of the living entity, learned sages become imbued with faith and worship your lotus feet, to which all Vedic sacrifices in this world are offered, and which are the source of liberation. And the purport, it says, not only does the Supreme Lord remain totally uncontaminated when he resides within the material bodies of the conditioned souls, but even the infinitesimal jiva souls are never directly touched by the coverings of ignorance and lust they acquire while passing through repeated cycles of birth and death. Thus, the Taittiriya Upanishad 3.10.5 proclaims, Sa yas chayam purushe yas chasav avaditye sa ekaha. The soul of the embodied living being is one with him who stands within the sun. Similarly, the Chandogya Upanishad 6.8.7 teaches Tattvamasi. You are non-different from that supreme truth. In this prayer, the personified Vedas refer to the finite enjoyer of material bodies, the jiva soul, as an expansion of the transcendental reservoir of all potencies, the Supreme Lord. The term Anshakritam, made as his portion, must be properly understood, however, in this context. The jiva is not created at any time, nor is he the same kind of expansion of the Lord as the omnipotent Vishnu Tattva expansions. The Supreme Soul is the proper object of all worship, and the subordinate jiva soul is meant to be his worshipper. The Supreme Lord enacts his pastimes by showing himself in innumerable aspects of his personality, whereas the jiva is forced to change bodies whenever his accumulated karmic reactions so dictate. According to the Sri Narada Pancharatra, Yat katastam suchidrupam swasambedhyad vinirgatam ranjitam gunaragena sajiva itikatyate. The marginal potency, who is spiritual by nature, who emanates from the self-cognizant samvid energy, and who becomes tainted by his attachment to the modes of nature, is called the jiva. Although the jiva soul is also an expansion of Lord Krishna, he is distinguished from Krishna's independent Vishnu expansions by his constitutional position on the margin between spirit and matter. As the Mahavaraha Purana explains, Svangshashchata vibinangsha iti dvida sa ishyate angshino yat tu sammartyam tat sarupam yatastati tad eva nanu matrapi hedam samsham shano kuchit vibinamsho shakti shat kinchit samartha matrayuk. The Supreme Lord is known in two ways, in terms of his plenary expansions and his separated expansions. Between the plenary expansions and their source of expansion, there is never any essential difference in terms of either their capabilities, forms, or situations. The separated expansions, on the other hand, possess only minute potency, being endowed only to a small extent with the Lord's powers. The conditioned soul in this world appears as if covered by matter, internally as well as externally. Externally, gross matter surrounds him in the form of his body and environment, while internally, desire and aversion impinge upon his consciousness. From the transcendental perspective of realized sages, both kinds of material covering are insubstantial. By logically eliminating all material identities, which are misconceptions based on the soul's gross and subtle coverings, a thoughtful person can determine that the soul is nothing material. Rather, he is a pure spark of divine spirit, a servant of the supreme Godhead. Understanding this, one should worship the Supreme Lord's lotus feet. Such worship is the fully bloomed flower of the tree of Vedic rituals. One's realization of the splendor of the Lord's lotus feet, gradually nourished by the offerings of Vedic sacrifices, automatically bears the fruits of liberation from material existence and irrevocable faith in the Lord's mercy. One can accomplish all this while still living in the material world. As Lord Krishna states in the Gopaltapani Upanishad, Uttara 47, Mathura Mandalayastu Jambudvipastitotava Yorchayet Pratimam Prati Same Priyataro Bhuvi. One who worships me in my deity form while living in the district of Mathura, or indeed anywhere in Jambudvip, becomes most dear to me in this world. Srila Sridhar Swami prays Twadam Shayana Meshana Vanmaya Kritabandhanam Twadangri Sebamadisha Parananda Nivartaya. My Lord, please free me, your partial expansion, from the bondage created by your Maya. Please do this, O abode of supreme bliss, by directing me to the service of your lotus feet. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumiditam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So the individual living entity, while inhabiting the material bodies he has created for himself by his karma, actually remains uncovered by either gross or subtle matter. This is so because, as the Vedas describe, he is part and parcel of you, the possessor of all potencies. Having determined this to be the status of a living entity, learned sages become imbued with faith and worship your lotus feet, to which all Vedic sacrifices in this world are offered, and which are the source of liberation. So according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, verses 16 and 17 were specifically about bhakti. And then, because the personified Vedas, there are many different shastras there personified, and so they have little different perspectives. It's not one unified voice. And so then here in 18, 19, and 20, they're talking about the super soul and hinting at the path of yoga. So we find out in the Bhagavatam early on, it's the one of the core verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It says this, that there's a non-dual substance that appears in three different forms, right? Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And so so Bhagavan is the full complete and has all of the Leela and is the source of all the others. But you can realize the Supreme in these different features. There are also expansions of him. And so there's three, and so generally it says that jnana, renunciation, and knowledge allow one to reach Brahman, where you see everything as coming from one source, and you are it's like the verse goes, our tattvamasi are of the same material as the divine light. And then those who practice yoga can discover the super soul in the heart. Right? There's three super souls, actually, three of these Purusha avatars. There's the super soul of all of the universes, Karna Dakshaya Vishnu. So when the universes are created, at first the material energy is inert. It's doesn't have any action. It's and so it says what happens is then the Mahavishnu glances over the material energy and puts inside the jivas and adds time. As the glance has time, which activates it, and the jivas we're going to interact with it so much. And then within each universe, there's a Garbhodakshaya Vishnu who lies at the bottom of the universe on the Garbhodaka ocean, and who's the soul of the universe. So the soul of all universes is Mahavishnu, or Karna Dakshaya Vishnu. The soul of the universe is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and then there's Shirodakshaya Vishnu, who's the one that appears in the heart of all, stays with all jivas. And so generally yoga is the path for achieving the Paramatma. And that's kind of being described here in the purport as well. And so it says that here in these verses they're talking about yoga and the Paramatma as the supreme. And it says that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that because the jivas, the souls, are described as kind of parts of the super soul, the anshas of the super soul, then it's natural that they worship him. They're similar in nature and therefore, but less and smaller. And so naturally they're dependent upon the super soul, and that super soul becomes their focus of worship. What happens is it's when the yoga that allows you to see the super soul is where you take kind of jnana to the next level. Right? It says that first you have to live very, very simply, withdraw from the world, become very detached from everything, and then you are able to withdraw your attention from everything. Right? In the Ashtanga Yoga, you withdraw your attention from all the superficial coverings. It says here that we have these different coverings. We have the physical body, and then underneath that you have all of what we consider our internal self. The Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur calls it the internal organs, the antakarana. That doesn't mean the physical, physical organs that we would usually say are internal organs, but like the mind, the intelligence, our power of understanding and wisdom, the ego, our false ego, the thing that seems to give us our identity, the emotions, all the different things that are in the internal landscape. These are all coverings of the soul. So when one can withdraw their attention from all those things, right now we're captivated, then you can see, that I'm separate from that, and that gives you the ability then to see what's really there. So it says that and Krishna says also in the Gita that we're his anshas or parts, and in the purport and also in the commentaries of the other acharyas, it's the distinction between the jivas and the Lord, the Paramatma or the Supreme Lord, are emphasized, even though we're of the same material. It's they say anshas, and then there's two different kinds of parts. There's the swanshas, which are just other forms of the Lord that have the full powers of the Lord. And so all the different avatars have that. And so they're identical in power to the Lord. And then this is the vibhinanshas. And so the Prabhupada uses the word for the swanshas as plenary expansions. And plenary, the simple synonym for plenary is just full or complete. Right? So it means they have the full power of the Lord. So the Vishnu forms have the same power as Krishna does. And so they're infinite and have inconceivable potencies, all this kind of thing. Where the vibhinanshas, Prabhupada usually translates them as separated potencies, and but sometimes he quotes, I think it's in the Vishnu Purana, it says that they're like little particles. You have the sun, and in the sunlight you have little tiny particles of light. I guess we could almost say photons today if we want to use scientific language, little tiny bits of light. And so in that case, there's a huge difference between the sun and the little bits of light. If the little bits of the light are shining down and it's not too hot, it feels nice. You want to be out in the sun, and it feels nice. If the sun comes close to you, you burn up. It's much too much. So the quantity is hugely different. So there's some similarity in the quality. They're of the higher nature, but because of their quantity, then they act differently. And so that's why sometimes the jivas are called the tatastha shakti, the in between. Because Krishna talks in the Gita about his 8 separated potencies: earth, air, water, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. Then he says the jivas are of a higher nature. But then he says he's the source of them both. And so the jivas are little bits of higher energy, but because the quantity is so small, they don't have they lack. It says what the acharyas say that they lack um, sufficient kriya shakti, ability to act. The full expansions, like the full expansions, like the Purusha avatars, can create universes. Mahavishnu can create universes effortlessly. Whereas the jivas don't have that kind of kriya shakti. They can't do much. And they don't have much in the way of jnana shakti, knowledge and wisdom. So they're small quantities of that. And so that puts them in a position where they can be captivated by the material energy. And even though they are of a higher nature, they're small quantities. It's like the sunlight can kind of go into the shadows, and how it probably puts it. And so it can still, even though there's a bit of light coming in there, it's still pretty dark. There's only a little bit of light coming in. One little photon or one little speck of light can't do that much, right? And so when the souls then are covered with these various coverings, there's it says that there's the physical and then the subtle bodies that come in. So you have a situation where you don't have a lot of power of action, and your knowledge is not that powerful. And so the soul then, when covered by this body, what happens is they get absorbed. There's a word called abhiveshana, absorbed in it. And so I think we can understand this process a little bit from our own experience in the world, how we get absorbed in things. We have, if you're zoned out on Instagram or YouTube for too long, you kind of almost forget yourself. Or somebody is deep into a video game, or now we have the virtual reality can be really compelling. I even think from like if you go to a movie, especially if you go to the theater, and it's a nice theater, and you have this really captivating movie, there's a moment when the movie ends where you almost have to kind of come back into your body and realize you're there because you're just so absorbed in what's going on. And so that's what happens. But instead of like you have a movie or a video game or even a virtual reality or this kind of stuff, you have something that's much more elaborate, that makes any kind of virtual reality seem like very, very primitive. Because we have it's ongoing. It's 360 degrees. It doesn't seem, we already have the apparatus built in. At least when you do virtual reality, you got to put your little headset on or this kind of stuff. Is you already have it. You have the physical body. You have the world around you, which is part of this of an artificial existence for us. And then you have your mind, because even if you have a very powerful virtual reality, you keep your memories, you keep your identity. It's still you in there. When we dream, we have that. We're still us in the dream. But here you're provided with a brand new identity, a brand new mind. It's not part of the jiva, a brand new wisdom and a brand new world that persists, day after day after day, and that changes, right? Our identity changes, like it says when we go from life to life. The really powerful experiences that we have in that particular life get encoded onto our identity, onto the ahankara, the false ego. They become part of us. So that's an ongoing process of mutability. And so it becomes really an interesting situation. And what happens is that you become more and more caught up in it, right? And so, like in the beginning, one of the powers that the soul has is that it's atmarama, it's self-satisfied. There's just a non-caused feeling of fullness and happiness. that's the soul's nature. And as I'm sure we can all report, that's not our experience of life. And that's because people have gotten caught up. So if you're watching a movie, you feel emotions. If it's a scary movie, you feel afraid. If it's exciting, you feel excited. And you're not part of it. You know you're not part of it even. But because you're giving your attention to that, right? There's tension there. There's anticipation there. There's fear, anger, happiness. All these things are coming out just because you've given it your attention. Even though it's even clear to you, you're not surrounded by it. You're not in that movie. Well, here we seem to be in the movie. We're surrounded by it. We're here, inside and outside. We're part of it, and it's ongoing and continuous. And it's not very long until we discover that there's certain things that are more pleasant to us and things that are unpleasant. It mentioned in the purport this attachment and aversion, or attraction and aversions, raga dvesha. It says in the Gita that that we're born under the control of this desire and hate, because we figure out, there's interesting things here. There's certain things that feel good or taste good, or just feel good. And that doesn't necessarily just mean the five senses, but we have beautiful thoughts, right? We have sometimes really deep understandings. We think, wow, that's wonderful. And then we have then the ego, which is really huge, right? Somebody praises us and, oh, that's so good. Or we accomplish something that seems to distinguish us and it feels so good. And then, somebody, bursts our bubble about that and we feel horrible. So there's the dualities, as they say, in this situation. And we become interested first and then slowly captivated. And so with all of our attention focused there, just like if you're only to a much more greater degree, you're sitting in the movie theater, nothing's happening to you. Right? You're not changed by the. I mean, it's funny that if the movie is intense enough, it may actually have some permanent effect in it because you identify with it so deeply. You may carry something with it, or some literature or art may do that, right? But really, right? You weren't there. Right? It wasn't part of you. You're here. You're separate from the movie. You didn't participate. Right? And so in the same way, all the things around us, all the things that we consider to be reality, it's not touching us. We're just watching it. But because we become absorbed in it, then it's causing it's causing us to forget ourselves. We've lost ourselves in the circumstance. And so it feels like it's our only reality. And so that's how the soul is captured. It says that there's some places it said that there's the potency that covers our knowledge of ourselves. And then there's the distraction, or some of the covering potency of anatmika, and the prakshepatmika. Sometimes Prabhupada translates that as the throwing potency, but it also just means like the distracting potency. It's the captivating potency. So first of all, we're kind of covered and not so aware of who we are, and then all these things are happening, and we get captivated. We get thrown deeper and deeper into it. So it says that if you have certain discernment, it's possible, to break your way out of that, to be able to distinguish yourself. And this is the part of what the process of yoga would be, is to find a way, to become less immersed in this thing, to begin to pay less attention to the virtual reality, and to be able to come to oneself, and then ultimately access the super soul. And there's certain things you can do. Even in the Gita, Krishna immediately tells Arjuna that we're all eternal, right? And that kind of opens things up for us a bit, broadens our perspective. We think, that naturally that this is our one and only life. This is us. This is the only time we've existed. And Krishna says, no, we've always existed and will always exist. And then he explains the path of reincarnation. And so then you can see, oh, that's like that. I've been so many different people and so many different creatures that I can't remember. So we don't take this one to be as seriously as we think. In in the Bhagavatam, there's an interesting meditation that's given also. It says that we can have some intuition of the presence of the soul by the natural cycle that we go through every day. So we have the world we're living in right now. Here it's in, in Eastern time. We're in the morning, and in the U.S. And we're all here in this kind of shared world. The waking world. And it's one that seems the most real because it kind of it's persistent. It comes every day. It's things all the changes from the past are preserved and carried forward. But then at night we go to sleep and we enter into a dream world, which at the time seems real. Same us, but the world has changed. So how does that happen? And then if unless we have too many sleep problems, we enter into deep sleep, where it says basically the whole system is shut down. It says the mind and everything is pretty much gone. It's at rest. The physical and the subtle body is pretty much at rest, and there's only the soul left. And so it says that even when you wake up from a deep sleep, even though there doesn't seem to be much consciousness there, you do have the feeling that, wow, I was really asleep. And you have some notion that some time has passed. So there's some little bit of consciousness here, even in the deep sleep. So you're there in all these three conditions. So there's this the ongoing waking world. There's a little bit more chaotic and not continuous dreaming state. And then there's this interesting other thing where everything else seems to be gone. And then there's just you there. Just as there you can kind of understand there's a separation, people that do mindfulness meditation are trying to see things and not be, watch your thoughts go by, these kind of things. Well, ultimately, watch everything happen and understand, no, I'm conscious of that. The seeing yourself as the observer. This is, kind of the way that happens with yoga. But for us, the yoga and this kind of stuff really takes some level of a high level of the mode of goodness, and a lot of you have to be able to slowly unabsorb yourself in this thing, and that's really takes a lot of the mode of goodness, which allows you to connect with some of the inner satisfaction that you get from the soul, and it's very difficult in this day and age. Right? You generally, like it says in the Bhagavatam, if you're going to do this, you're going to you leave you go off into the wilderness. You say, there's the meditation there in the second canto where it says, that if the caves are there, why do you need a shelter? If there's the trees are giving fruit, why do you have to worry about food? If there's anything, even the bark of trees or things lying on the ground, you don't need to have you don't need to have other clothing. As long as you have your arms, you don't need a pillow. You withdraw yourself. And so our path for doing this, and we're going to go, and the next verse is going to take us back to our path, which is bhakti, and the whole notion is right there in the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Right, or immediately it tells us it's cheto darpana marjanam. It cleanses the mirror of the heart or the mind or the consciousness. Cheta is consciousness. So that we right now, because we're so absorbed, you find yourself, if if you're watching too much Instagram or YouTube, you wake up and you come out of it and you're a little usually are not so energized. It's kind of draining in some way. And so that's what our situation is now. The soul is so absorbed that it's very drained, and the consciousness is, sometimes it's even said that the absorbed consciousness is identified as a material element, the chitta, contaminated consciousness, because it's just so weak and attenuated. But it says the holy name, the Hare Krishna mantra, helps to revive that. It cleanses the mirror of consciousness or the mind. and allows us to be. And then the second thing it does is it begins to extinguish. Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam, it says in the Shikshastakam. It begins to turn down the power of desire and the suffering that we have. It says that the material world is compared to a forest fire that disturbs all the inhabitants, and so we're disturbed because we're seeking things and are trying to avoid unpleasant things, seeking pleasant things and avoiding other ones. And so as we become closer to experiencing the inner satisfaction and some connection with Krishna, these things begin to go down. So the attachment and aversion, right? I'm really trying to adjust this situation, right? I'm trying to adjust it. That's one of the big absorbing things is, okay, I need to adjust this situation. I need to increase the happiness here. I need to get rid of this. How can I make this work? We're always looking at trying, how can we make it work? How can we make it work? Oh no, this might happen. I have to try to avoid that. Or this is happening now. I have to get out of that. And so we're doubling down on our absorption. So it said from contact with the Hare Krishna mantra, which is Krishna himself, we have this ability to begin to wake up from that. We don't have to go to the wilderness, and we don't have to have the kind of concentration and conviction and self-control that it takes to perform the yoga system to the point that we can realize soul, super soul. And the other thing is what this does is it connects us with Bhagavan, where with the full embodiment of the divine. So our path is bhakti. All right, so I think we better stop here, and we're getting close to the my time limit.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. The verse says something about being imbued, that those with faith are imbued with knowledge. And
yes.
Obviously you are imbued. Fantastic, brilliant description of the way that the illusory energy works. And Krishna is the one who has invested in creating this amazing complex system of being bewildered. Krishna is giving us all these different ways of being covered over. And then Krishna, how wonderful is Krishna that he's reaching out to us. Like you just mentioned, he's appearing as his holy name. It's not like a self-help program. Sometimes they say, pick yourself up by your own bootstraps. You ever hear that?
Yes.
Doesn't work, right? It's not a self-help program, although we do have free will to, make ourselves take advantage of the access Krishna is giving. But Krishna is so amazing that he creates the whole complex system of being bewildered, and then he reaches into that darkness and pulls us out. And we could never do it without Krishna. Anyway, just appreciating the brilliant explanation you gave for how the illusion is working, and then giving credit to Krishna for providing that. It's because we asked for it, and then Krishna pulling us out.
Well, thank you for that comment, because that's so important. That's what so much what bhakti is, appreciating Krishna's kindness to help us.
Right.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Realizing we can't do it ourselves, and realizing how kind Krishna is to help us, and being open to that help. Beautiful. Thank you so much for that.
Well, glories to Prabhupada.
Bhima Prabhu, I see your hand is up.
Haribol, Giri, wonderful class. And as Adi said, imbued. I have to give my obeisances and all glories to Maya, because when you start even as just a somewhat intelligent person, when you start just investigating a little bit, you start to realize there's a wild world going on around us that's completely out of our control, and we're just dust in the wind type of thing. And then due to that awe and veneration and fear of Maya, one reaches out and says, Krishna, help me, like a child for the father to come and make sense of it all. So we Krishna is a person, And if we understand that, then Maya, she's a person too, and she's really, really sneaky and very, very powerful, and very much a convincing factor. If we open our eyes, Maya herself is a convincing factor about Krishna's presence in our life. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. I guess you can say you can say Maya is so expert and expertly constructed and done that it has to come from something greater. It's such a perfect system. Makes sense. Anything else?
One time I was in a movie theater, and you gave that analogy of how you're watching the movie and you just get buried, like if you bring your car to the car wash, they put a hook under the car. Take your hands off the wheel, take your foot off the gas pedal, take your foot off the brake, put it in neutral, and then you get drawn. So you go to a television program and they put a hook in your mind, and you're looking at what they're choosing you to look at. And you're thinking about what they're, pouring into and you're just you're completely under the control of the external. But I was in this movie theater, and some workmen came and they opened up the side two big doors. That's like an emergency exit, right? And all of a sudden, you're just drawn into you realize, oh my God, I was practically asleep and dreaming in this. And then all of a sudden there's the sky and the light, the sunlight, and other people talking, and you can come out of it, and there's so many times when I've thought to myself, what was I thinking, right? What was I did it again. What was I thinking, but then Krishna reaches out and says, hey, hello. don't forget me, Thank God, thank Krishna. All glories to Prabhupada. Sends the guru.
Awesome.
Prabhu, there is a question in the chat.
Okay, let's see here. Yeah, I think that's right. It's not the only reality. And
can we read the question?
Oh, thank you. It says, doesn't Prabhupada also say that the material world is temporary and not false? Then what is the illusion you are describing? Is it that this material world is not real, or that is us believing that this material world is the only reality? Or it's not that it's the latter. It's our confusing this with our real identity and our real place. Right? It's the illusion is us accepting that it is that this world is our world and it's the only reality. That it has something to do with us as a soul, right? It's not an illusion. It's a real thing. The material energy actually is eternal, but the different forms that it takes are temporary. So the universes are created and destroyed, but there's always that. Even when there's no universes, there's the pradhan, the inert material energy. So it's the energy of Krishna. Prabhupada always used to emphasize that because the Sankaracharya's philosophy says that the world doesn't exist. It's an illusion, but it's actually Krishna's energy. It has a reality, but we don't really belong in it, and we're of a higher nature. And so our feeling that we are it and part of it, that's the illusion, our illusion. Is that okay?
Could you say
Prabhu,
that?
Prabhu, would you say that it would be more akin to a dream, which makes it not so much more insubstantial in the fact that when you're in a dream, it's real. You're dealing with dream stuff while you're in the dream, so it's real to you at that time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
instead of just the world is an illusion, but that we make an illusion of the world, that we're in a dream state. We're not viewing Krishna's world properly.
Yeah, I like it more like a virtual reality, but because the dream kind of exists kind of more only in our heads, but yeah, that works good enough. That's good enough.
It seems like what you said.
Well, there's also the dream. There's also the dream of idealism, the absolute of this and the absolute of that, the absolute of love, the absolute of beauty. You know what I mean? It's like a
Mhm.
dream in this world, the Krishna's world, the absolute of everything and ever increasing. That's another one. Like not only is it everything, but it's becoming more everything, and we're supposed to be becoming more attracted to it. It just seems like the reality that we're in right now is a dream in comparison to what we know to be true by virtue of the ideal. That if something exists in part, if there's semi beauty or semi mortality, etc., that there must be an extreme and ever increasing ideal of that. I'm sorry to ramble on like that. But could you help me juggle that concept? Aren't we more in a dream than in a what you're saying is we're more like in a matrix, like it's a mechanical thing that's going on. So could you parse those two together?
Well, I mean, I guess like, with a dream, it seems like we don't need other equipment. So like when we say like the Matrix, that's like, you had your brain hooked into a computer. Well, this is a different kind of virtual reality, I guess maybe closer to the dream, but the world is a real thing. And we're inside this body and inside the mind and the subtle body. So that's our equipment. That's the equipment. So it's not like the soul is plugged into a computer or something like people are in the Matrix. But we're given this thing that it isn't really us, given all this other equipment that allows us to have this external experience. And so in the dreams, we're using the subtle body, to create this different realities. So somewhere in between, I guess, because it really
No,
is.
I actually,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense. Yantra, we're in a machine. I
There you
took like
go.
3 years of pre-med nutrition, so I took a little bit of anatomy and biology, and I realized we're a machine. The body is a machine that works all together, and it works under the intelligence of the smallest thing within it, the mitochondria. So it's like what to speak of all the atomic structure. So you just realize that you're in an intermesh of material energy, that you're ensconced in this mesh or web, depending on what, or you're using it like a machine. But even the Bhagavad Gita, that verse where the body is, we are in the body as if in a machine. Yes, Prabhu?
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
It's a
Makes
meat
sense.
meat costume, Bhima Prabhu.
A what costume?
Meat costume covered in hair. Yeah.
Meat
Yeah.
puppet. Meat
Yeah.
puppet.
Yeah.
But then we've got
Somebody's got my strings.
then we got the internal costume that's a lot less, a lot less tangible than that, the mind and the intelligence and the ego there too. So we've got those things are there as well, which aren't intrinsic to the soul.
As
So
big as the universe.
Yeah, we have the external kind of really, the meat costume, but inside we have, the mental costume and the intelligent costume and then the ego costume. Ooh,
Yeah. Speaking about
I,
mental costume, there's a question in the chat from Krishna Gowda. Sorry, Krishna Gowda says, can mental illness be cured by yogic science? What did Srila Prabhupada Swamiji say about this? Is psychiatry a yogic science? Is dentistry real? That's my addition, but that's the question is in regards to psychiatry
I
and
mean,
yoga.
of course, there's all different modalities of psychiatry and stuff, but some of that is, I mean, some of those, there's depth psychology, and Freud kind of started that with people looking for roots of problems in childhood, and then there's been further people after that, who've looked beyond that, and so we have this notion that mental problems, can come even from past lives, you know, from many different places. You have people that do past life regressions and stuff, and sometimes you find that diseases come from some past life experience. They seem to be able to heal them. And there was a guy at the University of Virginia, Ian Stevenson, who did a lot of research into people who remembered their past lives. And so it's our time, I guess. And so,
Please,
so
please stay for the afterglow. Giri
okay,
Govardhan
okay,
Prabhu. Thank you.
okay.
Bhakti Center, there's no sound. And please put the camera a little bit higher if you can hear us. Thank you.
The lotus feet of our spiritual master, the only way which we can attain to the devotion of service. I bow to his lotus feet with great honor. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering, attain the mercy.
Hare Krishna.
Actions that fulfills no desires. He opens my darkened eyes.
Give us the shade of a lotus feet. Hare Krishna, welcome to the afterglow. Giri Govardhan Prabhu, please continue. What about that guy in some university?
Yeah, he was looking at Ian Stevenson in the University of Virginia. He was looking at children who remembered their past lives, and he found one thing that he found that was quite interesting is sometimes the birthmarks that they had corresponded to the death wounds of the person they remember being in the past life. Like the trauma would be so strong, even on a psychological level, subtle body level, that it affected the next physical body. There was this one person that had a small birthmark here and a large one here. entry wound, exit wound of a bullet. And so that you know, we bring stuff in, you know. So I mean, so psychology and psychiatry is trying to deal with that, the internal part, you know, the ego, the mind, this kind of stuff. And you know, and one thing you can say about it is there's been research done that the thing that correlates the most with a positive outcome is not the modality that's used, but by the relationship between the person who's having the treatment and the therapist. So there's like this power of somebody who's not going to judge you, who's gonna value you. And so in bhakti, actually, we're supposed to have a lot of that built in. You know, like you know, for one thing, I mean, like Adi Purush was saying, you know, that Krishna's, you know, Krishna's there for us, and he accepts us as we are. We you know, he's willing to help us in the condition we're in, and also the devotees. You know, we're really supposed to be, we're really supposed to be, you know, we're supposed to be a little less judgmental about ourselves and much less judgmental of others. We're supposed to be there for others. We're supposed to be able to be truthful with each other and have it be confidential, right? That's part of the 6 symptoms of love, is where we can reveal our minds in confidence and have that remain confidential, and feel that you have a loving presence there. And that really helps us to deal with the things that are either being repressed, or we feel shame about, or we feel that make us incapable of being somebody worthwhile. So when you have somebody, and especially if you have multiple people that make you feel that way, that's very healing. On the other hand, like I said, you know, we may have stuff that somebody who knows how the mind works may be helpful, you know. So I don't have any problem with people trying, you know, wanting to, if they have some really heavy issue, you know, take advantage of people who have some knowledge about the mind. Maybe, you know, maybe it helps. But devotional service is supposed to be a lot more healthy, you know, than what we usually express it. We have a tendency to feel that because we have such high standards that we may feel like we have shame and feelings of failure. But Krishna accepts us. His love is unconditional, and his dear devotees, you know, will have that same feeling. So that really should help us to face who we are and what we are in a very positive way. We really should have in our communities the kind of atmosphere that makes all the modalities of psychology work the best. The main ingredient there should be part of it. You know?
Thank you, Giri Govardhan Prabhu. Yeah, we're all crazy. We're all here because we're crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're all fellow patients. This is a hospital. And we shouldn't be judging. Oh, this guy is unhealthy. No, we're all here. We're all unhealthy in certain way, right?
In lots of ways.
Yeah, yeah. Some of us think we are the doctor, but we're all patients. We're all patients here.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, welcome to the psychiatric ward, Adipusha Prabhu.
Yeah, I'm the
He used to work in a psychiatric ward.
He still is. He hasn't the
I
Benevolent
think he
mentality.
just escaped. I don't think he ever worked there. I think he just escaped.
I'm on a day pass. I'm on a day pass. Funny, we hear the same philosophy every day, but we need to hear it. So we've heard this before. I was going over the Manhattan Bridge, and I was looking at all the details of the nuts and the bolts and the pieces of rust and the paint falling off. And I was thinking, so much detail. How can this be an illusion? It looks, I mean, how could Krishna create all these leaves on these trees and all these people and everything? So the illusion, what I can understand, what Prabhupada tells us is, it's like we're trying to find our way through New York City by looking at a map of Chicago. You know, we got the wrong vision. And the real illusion is not that the Manhattan Bridge is illusion, but the illusion is that this is for my pleasure, that this place is for, it's an arrangement for me, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to arrange it so that I'm happy here, which is completely nuts. Doesn't no matter how many pieces of furniture you move around, or pillows or whatever, it's like trying to make yourself comfortable by getting a bigger room on the Titanic. The ship is going down. The point is not try to make yourself comfortable here. Like Martin Luther King says, the goal of my life is not to find pleasure or avoid pain, but to do God's will come what may. And that cuts right through it. You know, when people have a mental illness, is because they want it to be like this and it's not like that. And they're so frustrated that they start to act up in different ways. And they're very frustrated. They're just trying to do the wrong thing and the wrong map of Chicago in New York City. It's a wrong map. But once the sadhu speaks and we hear the truth and we see things as they are and we accept that and we try to follow that, then everything becomes simple and clear. At least that's what I can understand Srila Prabhupada tells us. Sorry to talk so long. I'll go to Prabhupada.
Thank you, Adipusha
Did
Prabhu.
that make sense to anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Um, can I say something?
Please.
What I remember being taught is that all of this is consciousness, and it's Maya that draws the veil, veil after veil after veil. And when you lift those veils, then you recognize the pure consciousness. So a lot of things that were being said today, I don't quite get. I'm just clinging to the fact that ultimately it's all pure consciousness, all Krishna, all Shiva, all God, and that it's Maya that draws the veils. I mean,
We've chosen that. We don't forget we've chosen that.
Yeah, it's all desire. We draw the veil. Maya facilitates.
right.
You asked for it.
Remember that. Because, in deep meditation, and I've actually experienced it for a moment where there's just consciousness. There are no words, you just experience pure consciousness. And I cling to that. All the illusion and all of that is just a game. And that's my poor understanding.
Thank you, Anandi. Yeah, rise above the duality and cling to Krishna, who's our best friend and who's in control.
You know, it's what she said. It's only when you get to that being part, that the here and now, which we see as a cliche, but really, I mean, look at how much we're running around and we're not in the here and now. But when you get to the here and now, it's actually pretty easy. Not that I know anything about this. I'm working on here and now. But if you do, and when we do, it's so easy to remember Krishna because everything becomes wondrous. Like you're just living in the here and now. You're like, wow, look at all this stuff that's happening around me. And I'm just a tiny little part in this great big theater, real or unreal. I've got a part to play and I've got a friend to listen to. So I think that's wonderful. We should all pause and be still long enough to get to that, wonder again and realize how much we've been given and not take it all for granted. Hare Krishna.
How wonderful is Krishna. We have Mint followed by Narottam Nitai Prabhu.
So much for the class. I kind of want to go back to maybe the most simplest thing you've shared this morning, and something that we hear over and over again is that we are part and parcel of God, Krishna. So if we're part and parcel of God, we must have qualities of him, even strength and power in some ways. And when I think that I have a feeling that I must be misunderstanding something about that quality I have of God within me, when I think that, when I get kind of arrogant and think that I can achieve something amazing or over endeavor to get something I really want. So what is the best way to understand this quality that we have of God and utilize that to actually see God?
Yeah, well, what it mentioned quite a bit in the commentary was that we're not, it's not exactly like we're a particular type of particle of God, this Vibhinangsha, this tiny little bit, and that it doesn't have, that's the conversation, it doesn't have that much knowledge. The knowledge Shakti is deficient, and the Kriya Shakti, the Shakti of action, is sufficient. So we are conscious, we're of a higher energy than matter. And there is matter, right? There's this, we are pure consciousness, and Krishna is pure consciousness, but he can produce whatever he likes. He's the source of everything. And so there's matter of a lesser energy that isn't so conscious. And that's there. And so we don't have those kinds of things. So we're a higher energy that we're meant not to be absorbed here. But we don't have the energy of action and the deep energy of knowledge that would make us, kind of be like it's not like we have all the qualities. Sometimes Prabhupada will say, like, that you can have to take a drop in the ocean, and the drop of the ocean has all the same chemical composition as the rest of the ocean. Well, it's not exactly, that's kind of an analogy, but not a perfect analogy. We don't have all of the, we don't have like full knowledge, and we don't have, so much power. Especially those two things are diminished for us, and that allows us to be more easily captivated. And so for us, we're going to come alive, and our full potential is realized when we come into contact with Krishna. So it's one, and it's what happens with bhakti ultimately is you continue to become more alive. Krishna is dynamic. He's continuing to have deeper and deeper love and a more vibrant experience. And also the devotees are doing the same thing. So for right now, what we really need to do is do what Adi Purush said. There's the best things that here we are, we're kind of in a helpless position, a very helpless position. And we need to take the help that Krishna is offering us always and so kindly. And that's all we need to do.
There's a story that might illustrate the scriptural answer to this question she's asking. The scripture is Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktyamam Avijanati. Only by devotional service can I be understood. So there's a story about Jambavan fighting with Krishna. And Krishna was pleased by the fighting. And then he realized, because Krishna was pleased by his fighting with Krishna, hey, I'm fighting with Krishna. He began to recognize Krishna by the service of even fighting with Krishna. When we serve Krishna, Krishna reveals himself. That's what scripture says. We don't serve Krishna, and we don't really want Krishna to be the person we're pleasing, then he has the prerogative not to show himself to us.
Mama Maya, right? Otherwise, but if someone without Krishna's help, Maya is not a problem. Yeah.
By devotional service.
Yeah.
Serving Krishna, we understand Krishna. Krishna reveals himself. Devotional service, everything's there in devotional service. Therefore, Guru, we say, Guru, what can I do to serve you? And he tells us. And then when we do that, we have access.
And with the attitude that you described, the attitude that you described earlier, that we're, in one sense, we're very helpless. We're not achieving. It's not like a method for success, but we're actually trying to access the mercy of Krishna, trying to and show him some appreciation for that mercy.
Thank you.
Because if we take bhakti as a sort of just a process that we can do, and then we do it ourselves, right? Then we're missing out the fact that it's done mostly by Krishna's grace. So
does that answer your question, Min? Does that help?
Yeah, it's funny. I ask these questions, and I feel like the answer. I feel like there's some amazing answer, and this is the amazing answer and it's also similar at the end. So there must be something I'm not getting, to come back to similar sort of responses where it's the devotion and the attitude of yeah, this was really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, devotional service is the answer. It's like a reflex. It's the right answer to any question. And it's not vague.
So funny.
We have
One
what's
answer.
that?
So many questions, one answer.
Yeah. Narottam Nitai Prabhu's effulgent face is emerging under the Govardhan hill. What do you have to say, Narottam Nitai Prabhu?
Nonetheless, I just wanted to say, because we were talking about this idea of like the mind, because I wanted to say, especially for those is in this day and age where we have so much input from social media, from media, always things bombarding our minds. How much more important, I guess, is this to refer to Guru Sadhu Shastra, in order to take an idea forward, because especially in the service of Krishna, because there's just so much bombardment of the mind that, like, sometimes a lot of ideas come to mind, sometimes a lot of memories come to mind, loving exchanges, or sometimes none come to mind. And it's how I guess my question is, um when we have an idea, like, even if it's a memory, how can we verify that it's like bona fide, it's not just our mind playing tricks on us? And I guess my answer in my mind is refer to Guru Sadhu Shastra in order to get that answered, because we're not at the level of our gurus, like, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, where he saw so many the demigods, after he chanted multiple rounds, and Srila Prabhupada, seeing Narad Muni in the sky, and things like that. Like, we are not at that level, but if we have ideas or thoughts that come to mind that are really like out there, how do we, I guess, verify? And so I just wanted to ask that question.
I mean,
Sounds like
the mind has a lot of inertia to it, right? It brings up the same things over and over and over again. And so they can come from different levels. Honestly, sometimes you just have kind of it's just the background noise of your mind. And then you can, that you can kind of, ignore, and then there are some that are just wrong ideas, right? And so maybe you can address the wrongness of it. This is almost like, you see, like, even in psychology, you have like the depth society, the depth psychology that's looking for like, maybe there's some kind of deep trauma that's causing that, and that may take, a little bit more introspection. Then there's just things that are wrong, and you can address that. That's kind of there's a type of therapy about that. Oh, I never can remember it. But then there's kind of the mindfulness one, where if it's just noise, we can kind of ignore it. So there may be, if it's something deep that's coming maybe from a past life or some trauma, then we may have to, we have to examine that a little bit more. It's something where we need to also understand how we're loved by Krishna. I think that's a part that helps to heal trauma and that kind of stuff, and how Krishna is so kind to us. That Krishna and all of his devotees care for us deeply. That somehow it can help us on that way. Yeah. So I think there's different types of thoughts, and we can look at them in different ways.
Srila Prabhupada once asked the audience, do you want to know how to control the mind? And the audience was, yeah, how to control the mind? Ignore it. Srila Prabhupada says, one answer. If it's some deep poop, then, introspect, but the rest can be ignored, like watch Netflix. Do we have to think whether it's Krishna or Maya? It's nonsense. Pretty simple. Ignore it. Yeah, I was praying to Radha Mulidhar, just quickly, praying to Radha Mulidhar 2 days ago. Krishna, save me. Radha Mulidhar, please help me, save me. And I heard very distinctly in my heart, but you're not doing your part. You're not doing your part. Do I have to think?
that was me, Prabhu. That was me. I was standing behind you. Talking. You got some stuff to do, man. Get that list done, will you? Jeez.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for always speaking Krishna to me. Giri Govardhan Prabhu, please go ahead. And we have Gail. She has her hand up.
Okay, Gail.
Hare Krishna, everyone. This is a more of a comment to be corrected. if you, when Min was asking her question, a thought occurred to me, because we have this common conception, I think, that that us jivas are like mini Krishnas, but my understanding is that we are Tatastha Shakti. We're not Antaranga Shakti. We are a categorically different substance or energy from Krishna. So, you know, and even those qualities that we do have in common, they are in such minute, they're so minute by comparison in terms of, quantity, so it's a little bit misleading for us to think that we're many Krishnas and therefore can act in the same way that Krishna can to any degree. We're categorically different energies. So I just I just felt that, just the fact that we have a different name, our energy is a different name from Krishna's, I think bears evidence to that.
Yeah, that's of course the tatastha it means really that we have small quantity, and then there's also it says that we don't have the kind of kriya shakti, the of action or the same level of jnana knowledge shakti either. So yeah, and then I guess just the one thing we can say is here we are, guys. If we're so powerful, why are we here? Why are we in this situation? And we can try to get out on our own. And good luck, but why not take Krishna's help?
But the main point I'm making though is that, like you yourself was saying earlier, it's not just that we are minute, but we're categorically different.
It's not so much the category.
Otherwise, why we just touch? I mean,
no,
the Tatastha Shakti is a different kind of energy from Krishna's.
It's not so much it's not so much a different one though. It's more the quantity. That's how it's explained. And so because it's small, it lies between the two. It can go into the can fully absorbed in the spiritual energy or the material energies. It's more the difference is more quantitative than qualitative.
Prabhu, would you say that was what the one thing that Krishna that we have that isn't Krishna's, and that's our will, our desire, that he's given us? If the different energy, this energy would be whether he has our love or not, because otherwise we find ourselves more and more ensconced. But ultimately, that free will. I mean, look at the stories of Shastra. These demons, we say 10,000 years, we have no idea, but apparently they did something to get to a somewhat of a level whereby they were throwing fists with Krishna. So that's something else. But it all takes a huge desire. Like you have to desire to go through all that rather than, of course, to surrender. So is that a different energy, that desire?
I mean, it's part of us, right? We have that will to be able to to be able to say what we want. And so that's part of our whole, so much of what we call surrender and humility is the willingness to accept Krishna's help. So one of the things we may do is we may take the process of bhakti, do the service, do the different angas of bhakti, and we may think that I get credit for that because I'm doing these things. Instead of saying I'm interested, Krishna, in your mercy, this is the form of your mercy in the holy name and the different angas of bhakti, and I give you the credit.
Isn't that why they say the guru is the grace bestowing power of God and takes us out of darkness?
Yeah, because the devotees are the ones who are the abodes of bhakti. It says Krishna is the object of devotion, and the object of it, and we're the shelter of it. And so the devotees, a couple of things, they have the ability to understand. Oftentimes, remember what it's to have some feeling for what it's like to be in the situation we're in, and it's by nature that when you love Krishna, that you see that these other beings are part of Krishna and you want to help them. And so the compassion is there. And so the devotees, it says bhakti softens their heart and they want to give it to others and help others to progress. So
Right,
yeah, it
but
really is.
It's the guru also, the guru, the
Well,
great.
guru is a devotee, but it's all the devotees too.
Right,
Guru
but I
maybe
just want to
be your one.
emphasize, without the guru, where would we be? The guru is everything.
Yeah. But there's also many gurus, right? There's the internal guru, there's the shiksha gurus and the diksha gurus. So there's
Absolutely. I'm just saying that that's
gurus.
why the guru is so revered. Grace bestowing power of God, taking
Yeah.
us so out of darkness.
Yeah. Yeah. True enough. Yeah.
Thank you. Madan Gopal Prabhu, since you're here, please, would you like to speak?
Hare Krishna, obeisances Giri Govardhan Prabhu. I want to appreciate how beautifully you give the analogy of the virtual reality. Thank you. It really makes things very clear, and how this world is both real and also not ultimately real. Yeah, because sometimes it's people get confused, especially the Mayavadi ideas percolating through, and they get intertwined with the actual clarity that's found in Krishna consciousness, in Vaishnava theology. It's like a mirage. And the mirage is both real and not real, in the sense that we're all looking at it. It's an actual phenomenon, but it's not water. To think the mirage is water, that's the illusion. But the mirage itself is not an illusion. It's an actual physical phenomenon that's happening on the road because of the heat. So it's real and also not real in that sense.
It's like Schrodinger's cat, right? That's our philosophy.
Right. Yeah, it's simultaneously there and not there. But I mean, it's just to misidentify it as the illusion. That's the only problem. To think it's the only reality, ultimate reality, that's the illusion. But it is real in the sense that it has consequences. It has ultimate consequences. What we do here has consequences.
That's a great, oh my God, that's the best way to look at whether this is real or not. Trying to test whether it's real or not and see how it hits you back. That's pretty wild. That's wonderful. I will never again say that what smacked me upside the head wasn't real. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Okay, on this high note, we're going to conclude the yagya. Thank you, Giri Govardhan Prabhu. Thank you, Madan Gopal Prabhu. All the Vaishnavas, thank you so much. Is Karen here? Okay, Dana Krishna's Radharani is here. Dana, please recite the mantra.
Hare Krishna.
It was cut off, Dana. Please. Can't hear it. Maybe it's just me.
Hope you heard that. Did you hear it?
No, please recite again.
Hare Krishna, wonderful is Krishna. You guys are the best. I love you guys so much. Hare Bo, Hare Bo, Hare Bo. Thank you so much for letting me be here and be a part of this group. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you, Dana Krishna's Radharani. That's our reality. This is how our reality sounds like. Thank you.